Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is a very odd video that I'm about to make because I am doing a response to my very own tarot tag. A bit weird, I know, but I'll explain to you why I'm doing that in a second. Just to remind you, the tarot tag is called Tarot 5Ws, and in this tag we are sharing with each other the who, what, why, where, when, who, what, where, when and why of our love for tarot. And some of you have started to respond to it already, which I'm really pleased about. There is a prize for this tag, which is, well, two prizes actually, for a winner and a runner-up. You can either win the Quirky Creatives Tarot or the Autonomic Tarot. And I'll pull names out of a hat at an appropriate time. And a few of you have started to respond already, which is great, and that kind of leads me on to why I'm doing this response to my own tag. So one of the things that's happened is in my original tag, I won't repeat it here, you can go and watch that if you're interested, but in my original tag I shared for my who. The whole idea behind this tag, by the way, is that we pick a who of our own choice that's important to us, a person or a character within tarot that's important to us. We pick a what, an item or an object or a concept in relation to tarot that's important to us, and we share that. We talk about where, a place in space, a location that's important to us within our tarot journey, or it could be a location within the tarot deck. We talk about when, a particular point in time that's important to us within our tarot journey, and we talk about why, a reason around tarot that's important to us. So for my what, or for my who rather, I spoke about the person who introduced me to tarot. For my what, I spoke about the deck that I'm using most often at the moment. It's there behind me. For my where, I talked about where I did my first in-depth tarot reading. For my when, I talked about a point in time at which I became aware that there was something deeper happening with tarot than I had previously known about. And for my why, I think I picked why I continue to study tarot. So if you want to find out my answers to those, you can go and watch that video. However, a few of you have said that you would like to know what my answers were to the other prompt, because I made some suggested prompts under each one of the W's, and the idea is that you can answer any of those prompts or make up something of your own. It doesn't have to be something I'm suggesting. You can pick some criteria for your own who, what, why, where and when. So that's one thing. Some of you wanted to know a bit more about my other W's. And then also in the responses that are coming in, one that really struck me was Robin from Toadstool Tarot did a lovely video, and what he did was he actually responded to each one of the prompts under each of the W's, which was lovely. So he gave a real thorough overview of his approach to tarot under each of those categories, and I thought that was great. So I thought, well, you know, it might be quite fun to respond to my own tag and to share some of the other stuff that I didn't share in that first video. And so that's what I'm going to do in this video. And again, I encourage you to take part. Please share your 5 W's either here on YouTube. Ideally, it would be great I'd love to see your videos as you respond and share your 5 W's. But if you don't like making videos, then you can share your comments either under this video in the comment section, or you can go to my Facebook page, or if you're a member of my Facebook group, Tarot to the Nines, you can share in there, or you can share on my Instagram. Wherever you find me, you can share your 5 W's. But if you are called to make a video, then I would love it if you did, and I'd look forward to watching them. And of course, if you do make a video, this is a tag after all, so feel free to tag other people. Tag me so that I know that you've made the video and I can come and watch it. But if you would like to tag other people on YouTube that you're friendly with, who you think you would like to hear from, then by all means do that. So with that preamble out of the way, let's move into my other W's. So in terms of who, the prompts that I gave, I'm just reading them here from my video, is who first turned you on to tarot? Well, I answered that one in the previous video. Who's your favourite tarot author? who's your favorite deck creator, and who's your favorite tarot character. So I'm going to focus on one of those, but very quickly, my favorite tarot character is the Charioteer. The reason being, the Chariot is my birth card, so my birth date reduces down to 7. Also, I discovered years later that my middle name, Cormac, which was my maternal grandmother's maiden name, means, one of its meanings anyway, is son of the charioteer. And it's interesting that it also has an etymology. It connects to corvids, crows, which I'm fascinated by. I have my little crow wing necklace on at the moment. I'm fascinated by corvids. The town I come from, Carnoustie in Scotland, they think that that's related to a crow's name. One of the theories for its name is that it started off as Craw's Nesty, i.e. nest of the crows. My mum's maiden name, Crawford, also relates to crows. The first place I remember growing up was Ravensby Road, which is in Carnoustie, and sort of relates to ravens. So I've had lots of these kind of connections with crows and ravens, and the chariot, and the word Cormac, the name Cormac connects to that, and the name Cormac also connects to the chariot, son of the charioteer, which is my birth card. So it's one of these lovely connections. So I just feel a great affinity for the chariot, and it's one of these cards that whenever I get a new deck, or whenever I'm considering getting a new deck, I home in on the chariot card and check that I'm okay with it and that I like it, because it's really important to me that I do. So that's my favorite character within the deck. Who is my favorite deck creator? That's really difficult. I would probably go so far as to say that I don't really have a favorite deck creator. I am fascinated by the dynamic between Aleister Crowley and Lady Frida Harris in the creation of the Thoth deck, and I'm fascinated by the fact that really, although the esoteric knowledge in the Thoth deck is very much Crowley's, and he was teaching Harris magic through the process of creating the deck, the impetus for the deck actually came from her. She was the one who wanted the deck to be made, who encouraged him to make it, who incentivized him financially to make it, and they created this amazingly rich, deep, esoterically significant and interesting and progressive deck. So I'm fascinated by that. And I'm also fascinated by the dynamic between Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith in the creation of the Waite-Smith deck. I think sometimes the Waite-Smith deck is underestimated in terms of the depth and richness of its esoteric significance. Sometimes it's by some people it's seen as being a bit more simplistic than the Thoth deck, and certainly in terms of the overt symbolism that's encoded into the cards, there's still a lot of it, but probably less than in the Thoth deck. There's a lot more detail in the Thoth deck, but I would argue that it's not lacking in esoteric significance, especially if you choose to really go looking. I'm still finding interesting, quirky little things in the Waite-Smith pictures that I hadn't spotted before. So I think it's a work of metaphysical art. So yeah, that's a bit of a cop-out. Not one deck creator, but I am fascinated about those interactions in those very significant decks. And then who's my favourite tarot author? Again, that's difficult to really say. I mentioned the Thoth tarot, so I will say that I'm a big fan of Lord Milo Duquette's book on the Thoth tarot, which I think I've got there. Yeah, Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth tarot. Lon has got a very amusing style to his writing, which works really well if you're trying to grasp complicated esoteric subjects that are a bit new to you. So I really love that book, because at one point I was quite intimidated by the Thoth deck, and certainly by not really understanding very much about the background to Aleister Crowley and to Thelema and the theory and philosophy that led to the creation of the Thoth deck. And that book really kind of made it accessible and interesting. I think if you're already very familiar with some of those topics, then you might find some of the writing a bit irreverent, but I think it works really well if you want an accessible but very deep way into the cards, and his books on Kabbalah and other subjects are great too. So I'm a big fan. I'm also a big fan, of course, of Rachel Pollack, who we sadly lost earlier this year. Her classic book, I've got the 2-volume set, is 78 Degrees of Tarot. This is often held up as a brilliant beginner's book, but I tend not to recommend this for beginners, simply because it's really quite weighty, it's quite in-depth, it's quite philosophical. And if you like that as an introduction, great. But if you're trying to find your way into tarot and trying to grasp tarot and conceive of the wholeness of tarot fairly quickly, you might find yourself getting a little bit lost in this, I have discovered. So I would count this as not as a beginner's read, but as an intermediate read. What I think does work, ironically, as a beginner's read is the book that she did as a follow-up to this several years later, a follow-up to 78 Degrees, and that's Tarot Wisdom. And she describes this as being the book in which she shares everything she learned since writing 78 Degrees of Wisdom. But what's nice about it is she looks at each major card in depth, and then she shares a spread for each of the major cards as well, and she goes into each of the suits. She compares various different decks, and it's richly illustrated, and as I say, there's a chariot spread. As I say, it has some great spreads in it. I find this much more readable and accessible than 78 Degrees, and if you read that first and then go back to 78 Degrees, I think you'd get a lot out of it. I also, let me just pick up the books I dropped, also really am enjoying rereading her book A Walk Through the Forest of Souls, which was published several years ago simply as Forest of Souls, and this is a really deep dive into the philosophy of tarot and a lot of Kabbalistic lore and mythological considerations and so on. So it's a wonderful, rich book. I'm actually listening to this on audiobook at the moment, not unfortunately read by Rachel, but I have to say the person reading it, whose name I can't remember, sorry, is doing a really good job. I'm finding it much more enjoyable than I thought I would as an audiobook, but it's great to dip into too. Another favourite tarot author, I don't have her books here, is Cynthia Giles, who wrote she's written several books on tarot, but the two that really stand out are a book called, probably I'm going to scramble this name, I think it's History, Mystery and Lore. Yeah, History, Mystery and Lore, and then the follow-up book called Methods, Mastery and More. So Tarot, History, Mystery and Lore, then Tarot, Methods, Mastery and More. Those are brilliant books because they're not just cookbook tarot meaning books. They're an exploration of tarot in terms of the concept of how it works and some of its history, both real world history and metaphysical history, etc., etc. And yeah, both a really great read and highly recommended. And then the book that I do recommend for beginners is this one, Choice Center Tarot by Gail Fairfield, republished as Everyday Tarot. I think that might be the name it's out there under now. But that's a great book and deceptively simple. You could come to that book without any knowledge of tarot and get a really deep, rich grounding in the art of reading the cards, which would work as a brilliant jumping off point into some of the more weighty tomes like some of Rachel's work or Lauren's work or others. So those are my favourite tarot authors at the moment, but I love reading about tarot. I have many books on tarot and it's hard to pick one or even three as I've done here. So that was the who. So I'm going to quickly scamper through the rest of these prompts. So in the last video I shared what my most currently used deck was. What do I most love about tarot? I love that tarot, when I pick up a tarot deck, I love that I am holding the whole of life, the universe, everything, the whole of creation in my hands, and I'm able to dialogue with it. Make of that what you will. And what's my favorite tarot tool or technique? That's an interesting one. I think my current favorite tarot technique is actually one where when I do a reading, Let's see if I can demonstrate. When I do a reading or a spread, once I've laid out my cards, I shuffle and deal and all that kind of stuff and lay out the cards into a spread. And then very often now what I do is I go to the bottom of the deck and I pull out the very bottom card, and I see it as a teacher card. I see it as a card that is there to show me something I might not otherwise be seeing, and also show me something that I might not have had the wisdom to ask about. So I usually pull that once I've done my reading for whatever spread I'm using, and I find that a very enriching thing to do. That's all the whats. So when I spoke about when I first started to take tarot seriously in my last video, so when did I first encounter tarot? The first time I actually encountered it in real life was at university, when a friend who lived above me read my cards for me and I read for her, and we experimented with her deck. But I first encountered tarot, my first memory of tarot, like many people in the UK, was seeing it in the opening titles of the TV series Tales of the Unexpected. The one JJ Swiss tarot appears in that opening sequence. It's quite a spooky opening sequence. Look it up on YouTube. And because it was a spooky series. And so that's one encounter. And then that was either the first or the second, and the one that was also happening around the same time, which may have been first or second, was encountering it through the James Bond film Live and Let Die, where James Seymour's character Solitaire used Tarot of the Witches. She was a tarot reader, and you saw tarot cards in that. So that's when I first encountered it. When did I last have a significant tarot experience? I think probably it was when I decided to come out of the tarot closet as a tarot enthusiast and teacher, and I started to take on students and I started to create courses and so on. So I have many significant tarot experiences in readings, but that was a significant life experience when I thought, actually, yes, I have something to share in this field, and I have something that I can give to others in this field. That was a significant moment for me. Okay, so where, I talked about where I was when I did my first serious reading. So where do I currently carry out my readings and my tarot practices? I don't have a specific place. It tends to be wherever I am. I tend not to, and try not to, allow my tarot practice to get bogged down in too much dogma and ritual and stricture, because I don't want it to become oppressive for me. So I try to just make sure I have a clear space, a clear table. I try to make sure I center myself, and then I do my readings. But I like to know that I can use tarot wherever I am, whenever I am. So that is the where. And where do you store your decks? Well, at the moment I store my decks in various boxes because we're in the middle of renovation work. I have decks in the attic, I have decks on bookcases, I have decks in boxes, I have decks on piles on the floor. One day I will have a cabinet or several cabinets in which I will store all of my decks, but at the moment they are everywhere. Why? So again, in the last video I spoke about why I continued to study tarot. So why do I love tarot? That's kind of a repeat of what do I love most about tarot. So I spoke about the fact that what I love most about tarot is that it contains the whole of the universe in it. Why do I love tarot? It's because it's a way of getting past my ego. When I come to a tarot reading, I know that the cards are not going to pander to my ego. They're not going to just tell me what I want. They're not going to show me just the nice cards because that's the easy thing. They're going to just deliver I hesitate to say message because I don't even see the cards as delivering a message. It's more, they're going to show me the symbols that I need in order to be able to work through whatever issue I'm dealing with. And I find that to be unfailingly true. So that's why I love tarot so much. And why do I think tarot is important or helpful? It's important for the reason I've just described. It's a way of getting past those kind of ego structures that can hold us back personally, and certainly just look at the world around us, certainly hold us back in the way that our world works. I think it's important because it reminds us that there is a deeper connection to everything, and we have a way of tapping into that. And it's through tapping into that deeper connection, I think, that we are going to heal this world. And why else do I love it? Because I can apply it in a very practical way. So as well as being a portal into the depths of mysticism and unitive consciousness, which I think it certainly is, I also see it as a fantastic coaching tool. And so many of my courses and workshops are based around my tarot coaching approach. And I love that I can apply the cards in a coaching context to help somebody move forward in their life in an empowering and empowered way. So that's why I think it's important, because we all deserve that. And that's why I think it's helpful. So that was my canter through the other prompts and my response to my own tag, hashtag Tarot5Ws. And again, I hope you will join in. Please film a video with your responses. Please tag other people, let them know about this tag, and let's get everyone talking about their Tarot5Ws. And let's share our love of tarot, because it's a great thing to love. Okay, take care everyone. I'll see you again very soon. Bye.